So, all right, let's go and get started. First of all, welcome everybody to spend a good, Wednesday evening with us. This is Open Show number 69 that we've been doing for quite a while. This is the 69th time. So I'm going to do a little bit of an intro about Open Show Los Angeles. Also, after that, I'll do a little overview on the logistics, of the evening, so that we know, the presentation and all that good stuff. So I see a few alumni presenters who've done Open Show LA before. So thank you so much for coming back and listen in, and appreciate that. So Open Show Los Angeles, who are we? Some of us, most of us know who we are, but for those of you who don't, I'm just going to talk like a couple of minutes about Open Show. Okay. Oops. All right. Today's presenters are Robert, Larry, and Michal. And then Open Show LA. Open Show in itself is sort of a global organization. We have local chapters that are, from around the world. This is an older image that sort of depict all the locations that has an Open Show chapter, right? So there's Open Show San Francisco, Open Show Los Angeles, and so on and so on. Some of this chapter may be more active than others, but a few years ago, these are all the locations around the world that has Open Show chapters. So a lot of them are active still, but some of them become inactive after a little bit. So just FYI, in the Southern California area, we have Open Show San Diego, Open Show Sacramento, and then we also have Open Show Pasadena, East Los Angeles. So in the LA surrounding areas, we're quite active around here. So anyway, you can check out those other locations if you like. And then who are we? We are a regional organization. We do artist talk, Open Show, like once every 2 months or so. And then our mission is to get your work seen, because there's not a lot of channels for photographers and visual artists to show their work. So, but we've been doing this for 11 years now, going on 12. And just a little bit of history, San Francisco was the first Open Show, and then LA is the second one. So we've been around for quite a while. And so we offer a platform, for photographers to connect with other photographers, potential galleries, publishers, and people who like photography. We've been doing an Open Show in Zoom for the last couple of years, but in the past we have done Open Show live, right, in real life, in galleries and studios and stuff like that. Eventually, we want to go back to a hybrid situation that we can do both, So, all right. And Open Show, we have a brand new website. Well, it's been around for about a year now, openshowla.com. Please go ahead and bookmark it if you like. And you can go there to find out any upcoming events or call for entries and things like that. And then organizers, it's me, Richard S. Chow, and then Jonas Yip is also here. Jonas has been around Open Show LA since the beginning. He hosted Open Show LA #1 until now. So Jonas, good job. Anyway, these are our contact information. Of course, both of us are photographers. These are our website. And then our Facebook and Instagram handles and so on. You can find us there. And then again, these are the folks that gonna show today. All right. Now a little bit of logistics. Okay. So each presenter is gonna have about 15 minutes, maybe maximum of 20 minutes to cover their portfolio. And for the audiences, for you guys, please go ahead and add your questions in the chat window. If you look at the Zoom menu, there's a chat button. You can click on that and key in your questions there so that we know that you have a question, that we make sure those will be covered. All right, and we're going to have a short Q&A after each presenter, and then we'll have a longer Q&A at the end of Open Show after all three presenters have completed their talk. Okay, so in general, the etiquette is that if you don't mind, you can leave the video on, but go ahead and please mute yourself, just in case if there's any other noise, and so on. Of course, the speakers, you guys have to unmute yourself when the time comes. And then we wanted to mention also that this will be recorded, so that you know that it is being recorded. Okay. And one of the last things I want to mention is that thank you for the donations. As part of the RSVP process, there's an automatic button that asks for donations, and we sometimes actually get them without asking. So thank you so much for those who donated. It is always appreciated. So if you could go ahead and make sure, if you're not on our mailing list, please sign up on our mailing list so that you will get email notices about open calls, as well as the next event, right? The next open show, like number 70. So you know when that's going to be, and you can join us then. Okay. All right. So are there any, I assume there's no questions. Are there any questions that you guys have right off the bat? If not, we're going to proceed with the open show presentation today. Okay, all right. The first presenter today will be Michal Greenboim. She is an alumni from Open Show LA. I think she presented back in 2018 on a really fantastic portfolio where she subsequently, published the book on. And then since that time, she's been doing a lot of new work. And today, she's going to share a project that she's done in Israel. So I'm very eager to hear the backstory around that. And she has many projects, and he has shown and collected. I think she, Michal, you have 3 books published so far. So congratulations. And with no further ado, I will go ahead and turn it over to you, Michal.
Okay. So first I need to share screen.
Yep, go ahead and share your screen. I'm going to stop share, and then you can share. Feel free to ask your questions in the chat. Just a reminder. Sorry.
Okay, so Richard, the project it's not about Israel. Next time I will promise I will do something about Israel. I have a project on the go, but this one is in Cuba. I was
Cuba.
in Cuba in 2019, yes, and it's about the small Jewish community there. There is only like 1,000 Jews. And they are elderly, like the community is getting smaller and smaller, and that's why I call it keeping the flame, like keeping that it will not disappear later. But it looks like it will be very hard to keep the Jews there, because they are mostly moving to Israel or to the US, and they are living. It's not a good life there. So this is Isaac. I met him in the synagogue, and I remind me a little bit with his blue eyes and the kind look. He reminded me my grandfather, and I really connected to him. And I asked him if I can photograph him in his house, and he said he was very happy to help. So he took us to his house. He didn't talk any English, so I had someone who helped me, who translate from Spanish to English. And this is Isaac. He's 90 years old, and he was born in Cuba. His parents are emigrated from Poland. And until the revolution, he worked as a delivery boy in a pharmacy, and also he worked in the kosher restaurant in Havana called Cafe Lily. And this place was all the Jewish community get together, and it was like a central meeting place. Who lived his entire life in this apartment. The photo behind, I don't know if you can see. Behind, if you see him in the talit and tefillin, and the prayer shawl, you see this on the right side. I don't know, I cannot find my mouse. And also you see all other Jewish symbols there that were using during the holidays. It's the menorah, and it's a holiday flag, and a Kiddush cup, and what else? And a lot of all kinds of stuff we have there. It was even medication from Costco. So it's Isaac sat in his chair and he began to talk in Spanish. I didn't understand much, and my friend told me that he is talking about the Jewish calendar, which is very different from the Georgian one. And I was very surprised because many Jews don't know this, that the Jewish have another calendar. It's going by the moon and the sun. And he shows his bookcase, and it's a siddur, it's the prayer book. And then I realized that he doesn't know how to read Hebrew, because if you see his handwriting on the right, you see it, it's upside down. And actually in the beginning, he'd hold the book upside down, and I told him, maybe I can take the picture if you turn around the book. And then I realized he does not know Hebrew, so he's very knowledgeable, but still don't know any Hebrew to read the prayer. And this is his kitchen. As you see, it's not longer in use since his wife died in 1999. And his meal is eating in the synagogue. This was like, this picture broke my heart. He told us that his house is falling apart and he does not have a budget to fix it. And it's very hard to get material in Havana or in Cuba at all. And in his bedroom, I saw tools, an old newspaper, a laundry was over his bed. On top of his bed was the laundry, and suddenly I noticed a broken kid tricycle on the other side. So it was really, it was a mess. It was a chaos. And I felt for him because he opened his house and he opened himself to me. And I felt his loneliness, his misery, that this place saw better days. If you can see the rich color on the wall looks better many years ago. And I was thinking to myself, why staying in Cuba? You have two daughters, one live in Israel and one live in the States. But I didn't get an answer for this. And after a while, he apologized and said he must go to get his weekly allowance of eggs. And he kissed the mezuzah, and we all left. This is the site of the original Adat Israel, the Orthodox synagogue in Havana. Eventually, it expanded to move to its current location. The synagogue has a membership of 125 families. In the synagogue, I met Yaakov. He's the president and the cantor of the synagogue, Adat Israel. And because it's an Orthodox synagogue, the men and the women are not sitting together. And I came one of the weekdays, not on Shabbat, because we are not allowed to. Shabbat is Saturday. became in one of the weekdays morning in the service prayer to photograph the synagogue. As I could not photograph the men's section, I decided to photograph a prayer in the eye of an Orthodox Jewish woman. I was trying to give the feeling of how the woman feels to be across the partition from the men's side where everything happened. The woman who came to pray did not read from the prayer book, but sat quietly and listened to the cantor. So I want to see the preparation. As I told you, Isaac is eating most of his meal here in the synagogue, and those are the women who prepare the food. They are taking care of the elderly, not only food, but also medication, and if they are sick. And they are in the synagogue, they prepare everything from scratch, even like the mayo, they cannot find in Havana, so they make them by themselves. And the kosher oil delivered from Panama, and also many other kosher ingredients. On Friday, we start to make the preparation for Shabbat, and we went to the market. We bought vegetables and fruit and rice. And only on Friday afternoon, we began for the cooking for Shabbat. And as I say we, because in one point I found myself peeling eggplants. But you see, like even basic things, as I say before, missing like matches and yeast, and they depend on someone from abroad to bring them. And my suitcase was full of yeast, matches, medication. And as you see, this is a picture in the market. And the right is the Rebbetzin. She made all, you see how much money she has in her hand, and she is doing all the shopping. Oh, this is my favorite. This is Yolanda Geller. She's in her 60s. She called in Adat the challah lady. Every week she makes a challah for 25 or 30 people who will eat Shabbat dinner and lunch there. Yolanda begins to prepare the challah in the morning. She put flour and yeast. If she will not have flour, she will use corn flour. But Yolanda added love. I felt like the love. She all the time pat the challah and put them in the oven, took them out of the oven, pat them again and put them back. And the whole day she make only like 4 challah, only 4 loaves of bread. It was amazing. And we ate it on Shabbat. It was delicious. It was very hectic in the kitchen. One man cut and the other chopped the vegetables. There is no food processor or even a peeler. The pillar you see there, it's mine. So everything takes a lot of time, and the Shabbat is coming very soon when the sunset, 20 minutes before sunset. And it needs to be exactly 5 o'clock on that day. And that's it, Shabbat Shalom. And I also add, this is Luis. And Luis took me on a tour in Havana, and he said here a special story about how the old car got into Havana and how the Jews and chicken involved in it. It's funny, and I thought it will be cute to finish my presentation here.
Claire, you come from Argentina, make a donation, 500 chicken to the synagogue, make a joint venture with the Cuban government, and buy the spare and parts of the old cars in Cuba from the state, sent to the free zone of Colón in Panama, and after that from Panama and Cuba. Now, 10,000 of these old cars are working. This car is from the year 1153. The primo 1153.
Yeah, that you see, this is Luis walking also with a bag of eggs. I really, maybe eggs there, it's the big thing that they need to get their allowances. And I can tell you, he walked with me on the street all day with this bag of eggs. And that's it. This is my information. If you want for more questions, and you can search my with the QR tag. That's it.
Oh, okay, here we go. I found the button to unmute myself. Thank you so much, Michal. This is a very interesting, sort of a depiction of the culture or subculture within Cuba with, with the Jewish community. So, what prompted you to document this series?
It was a workshop with Sama Bell, and we need to, in order to get to join them, we need to offer a project that we want to do. So that was my project. I did a lot of research before and after, and I really got into it. I can tell you it's got a very personal project, and really it's impact of my future work, what I'm doing today. It's a long process of being an artist. It's not just taking the picture and that's it. It's more than documentary here for me.
Right. Yeah, this is so much different than your previous work. For example, the portfolio that you showed us about 4 years ago, which is more fine art.
Trail.
Yeah,
Yes.
and this is more documentary, more cultural, more narrative, right? More narrative, like a story. So that's interesting. Is it done, or are you gonna do more?
I'm doing both all the time.
All the time? Okay, got it.
Mostly in Jewish subject and culture.
Yeah, because I like the way you sort of did it, sort of like a documentary, like editorial type style. So that's very good, I think. So
thank you.
Yeah. Are there any other questions from anybody at this time? If not, we can you can think about it and ask them, and we can cover them at the end. Thank you, Michal. So good to see you back here. It was nice. All right, the next presenter we have today is Larry Brownstein, and Larry's he's done pretty much everything in photography, and he's focusing now on urban landscape and subculture around any area, but most recently he's been working around downtown LA. So he's going to be talking to us about that, and he's also published many books. So I'm excited to hear Larry's story today. Go ahead, Larry.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Richard, and thank you, Jonas, for hosting. This is exciting to be able to share my work. So I have images of downtown Los Angeles, and there's 25 images, and they do say that an image is worth 1,000,000 words, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the first time very quickly and just let you experience the images without my talking over them. And then I'll go through a second time and share some stories about them. And if you want, you can even type some questions into the chat. So here's the images from downtown Los Angeles. Oh, let's go that way. Okay, so I see that when I do full screen like this, some things are covered by a lot of the Zoom widgets. So what I think I'll do is, as I go through it the next time, this way I think we can see the images a little bit better. Does it seem a little bit easier to see the whole image this way, Jonas or Richard?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
I
'Cause
can see
I feel
the,
like all the widgets were covering the
yeah.
image before, but anyhow, okay. So a lot of what I do when I photograph is, like Richard said, I like to photograph the social landscape, the urban landscape. And I've been doing that for quite a while. I pick different parts of LA and then I sort of go in over and over and over and sort of uncover different subtleties and give myself a chance to find surprising things that, I can't really anticipate. So downtown Los Angeles was one of the last places I really ventured. Um, First of all, it's kind of big and expansive and doesn't really have a focus like places like Venice Beach and Hollywood, for instance. But about 3 or 4 years ago, I did start going downtown and I found it was one of the most interesting things that I've photographed in the greater Los Angeles area. So I do a lot of what's called street photography. Most of it is candid. This is an example of one that I saw, but I couldn't really get it in a candid way. So I did ask the guy if it was okay for me to take the photograph. What you're seeing is the sun is reflecting off of the window and that gate in the window is causing the shadow on his face. So I look for interesting lighting situations. Here's an example of some interesting patterns. You look at the pattern on the vest, the pattern on the barricade in the background and the foreground, and they all sort of echo and work together, and you've got some interesting framing here. So I try to use all the sort of little tricks in the photography book to make an interesting image. Here's an image that when I was on the subway heading downtown, I saw, and I got off on the next exit. I took the subway back. I got off and I walked and I got this image. I kind of made it look like I belonged there because it really wasn't a place where they wanted somebody with a camera. But sometimes you just walk in with an attitude like you belong there and you can get away with anything. This was an image that I was a little bit cautious about getting. I'm right in the middle of Skid Row. These people I could see from a distance were smoking probably crack. And there was something about the four of them and something about the background that made me just venture closer. And I just asked them very straightforwardly if I could take their photograph, and they had no problem with it. And I like that you could see they like that they're being photographed. And that's one of the things that makes this an interesting image. I see I included 2 pictures of the Grand Central Market in downtown LA. Here's one of them. It's an indoor market and it's many, many, many decades old and it's got a lot of character. Broadway is always an interesting place to photograph in downtown LA. And I did mention that I take the metro to go downtown pretty often. And I'm always looking for interesting photos on the metro. This is a good example of sort of patience. Photographers need a lot of patience. The only reason this image works is because of the separation. You've got these people in the foreground and these people in the background, and they separate perfectly from one another. Believe me, I didn't just point the camera and find this. It took a lot of patience, dancing forward a little, dancing backwards a little, dancing to the left a little, and dancing to the right a little. And then finally, everything came together. Sometimes you're just walking by and you grab an image real quickly. In this case, the architectural details really made a difference. And I do like to photograph at night. It's challenging because you have low light levels, but it also just provides a different mood and a different aura, which usually makes for nice photographs. And whenever I'm photographing, I'm always paying attention to the light. In this particular case, there's some bars overhead that are casting some shadows. And you've got interesting diagonals going one direction, diagonals going another direction, and some lines going horizontal and vertical as well. This is that other image that I mentioned comes from Grand Central Market. This is, I will divulge to you, the single image in which I did anything with Photoshop. The image was not too different from this, but if I had not, I moved him around. So I wanted him to be a little bit more obvious. So I moved him around and played with the scale a little bit. But he was there on the suitcase, on the staircase. So I figured it would be legitimate for me to go ahead and to move him where I wanted to. And again, you can see I play with shadows and play with shapes. That's one of the things that's very fun for me when I'm out with the camera. Again, you can see lots of lines and shapes. And I often like it when I have a single person in the frame. I find that often creates an interesting image. I have really been into photographing reflections in the last year or two. And this is probably one of my more interesting images with reflections. It's just a black car and I'm just walking by and I see the reflection of the downtown skyline and this tree in the car. And again, it's a matter of just moving forward a little bit, moving backwards a little bit, and just working on the framing to get an image that's interesting. And if you look closely, you'll even find the photographer in the image. And this is near 7th Street in downtown. There was an alley there, and I said, I haven't been down that alley before. And I saw these very interesting shadows. And again, almost all the photos you're seeing are candid photos. In this case, I got some interesting candid photos of the construction workers. But this one wasn't candid. I actually asked them to move a little bit to the right side of the frame to sort of balance things out and to improve the composition. So I still consider it street photography, even if not candid photography. This one is candid. Again, you're seeing reflections. It's a coffee shop, and I'm outside the coffee shop. And I kind of had my camera set so that I could just put myself in the right spot and grab the image fairly quickly so that I wouldn't change the expression on the man's face. So I was able to grab a shot in a second or two and then move on. This is the Disney Concert Hall in downtown LA. And again, you can see that I enjoy photographing reflections. And one of the interesting things about downtown LA is it's many different regions and neighborhoods. You go from the Disney Concert Hall at one part of the city to the garment district in another part of the city. And it's like night and day. It's interesting when you can make different parts of the frame sort of connect with one another. So if you look at the skirt, the pattern on the skirt sort of connects a little bit with this pattern on the construction site poster. And after Kobe passed away, there were many people that came out and expressed their sympathies and condolences near the Staples Center. And you never know what you're going to find in downtown Los Angeles, including unicorns. And actually, there's a second shot of the Disney Concert Hall. So let's see. Richard, did you notice if there's some questions in the chat?
Yes, there are actually a lot of kudos in the chat.
Wonderful.
Yeah, a lot of people made some comments about the fact that which image they like and so on. And Jody Holden loves the series. And the line worker images is iconic, says John. So yeah, a lot of kudos there. I'm gonna start maybe get the conversation going, and then everybody, please feel free to chime in or put your questions in the chat. Larry, you want to talk a little bit about your decision on using black and white?
Oh yeah. So until several years ago, I mostly photographed color, but every now and then I would find a subject that I thought really lent itself to black and white.
Mhm.
And now I'm pretty much 50-50, and I really let the photo decide whether it should be color or black and white. When it comes to my downtown LA series, if you went to my website, you'd see it's probably about 50-50. Half of them are color and half of them are black and white. That's kind of unusual. Usually in photography, they tell you go one way or go the other, but that's okay. So
Yeah.
for the purpose of this presentation, though, I did choose 25 images that were just black and white.
Yeah, there's a consistency that you have shown here that is very amazing. And that, as you say earlier in your presentation, this is classic street photography. Yeah.
It's
And,
definitely street photography.
Yeah.
Even this image, which, like I said, is not candid, is
Yeah.
definitely street photography because that's what I saw. And then I just got permission
That's
to
right.
photograph what it is that I saw.
Yeah. And you are indeed, Larry, a master of the light. So you control and look for the situation where the light will give you the best image. So that's great. And Jonas put Larry's website on the chat. So those of you who are in the chat, you can click on it and bookmark it. So are there any questions from anybody else? I think Larry, in terms of the longevity of this series, I guess you're going to continue to shoot downtown LA, right? That's sort of a good,
Yeah.
a good battleground to be in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been a few years and I'm not as focused on it as I was a year or so ago. But every now and then I just let the camera bring me where it will. And sometimes it's downtown Los Angeles.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, so certainly a lot of stuff to cover. Have you thought about making a book of the series?
Yes, I like to make books. I've done a Venice and a Hollywood
You've
book.
done
I haven't
many.
done a Los Angeles book yet.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, that would be interesting because I'm pretty sure, I'm guessing you have a lot of images.
Like I said, I didn't start doing downtown Los Angeles until you know, relatively recently compared to a lot of
Yeah.
the other series I've done in the other parts of Los Angeles. But I'd have to say I probably have more LA images than Hollywood, more than Venice. So I did really get into it. You never know what you're going to find. It's really diverse.
Yes, exactly. And it's almost like documenting, you know, what's happening right now, because that would change, right? 3 years from now, you know what I mean? So that's
Absolutely. Absolutely. It changes very quickly.
right. Thanks, Larry, for that. I'm pretty
you.
sure there might be more dialogue at the end. So I do want to get through all the presenters, and then we can get back together and talk about what we saw today. So the next presenter is Robert Walker. Bob, also known. He has a long career in the photography world, and he worked for Getty Research Institute in the photo department. I think he manages that, and now he's retired. So during his journey, he had obtained a full archive of Michel Greenboim work, which is now in a European museum. So he's done a lot around the photography area, and he's prolific. He's taking a lot of pictures, pretty much, you know, for many years. Today, he's going to share with us his personal work, probably, so to speak, his personal archive. So, Robert, Bob, you want to start talking? Now, for this particular presentation, I think Jonah is going to share, and then Robert's going to speak to the images. Robert, you're on. Unmute yourself so we can hear you. Yeah. Or should I unmute you?
Okay, I
There we
think
go.
we're back.
Yeah.
We can go to the first slide. Well, I've been a photographer for forever. I just turned 80 years old, so this picture was taken in 1955, I think, and my mother died when I was quite young, and I started using a camera, I think, just to document life and save life that seemed so fleeting to me after my mother died. And this was a few years later, about 2-3 years after my mother died, and my father had remarried, and I didn't get along really well with my stepmother, but that particular camera you see here, that was a Toyota camera from Japan. I bought it with my paper route money, and I became quite the photographer. I was a high school photographer. I became the high school photographer, but with that camera, my stepmother had quite a temper, and she was a disciplinarian, French, 100% French, and very volatile. And so she would come after me sometimes with anything she could use as a weapon. And there was one time that she was coming after me with a fly swatter, and I decided I was going to show my dad what he married. And so I used that particular camera as like a paparazzi. As she was coming at me, I would boldly turn around and try to snap pictures of her in the attack. Well, of course, that led to quite an outburst, and so she managed to corner me and capture me, and that particular camera was smashed. She took it out of my hands and smashed it, and so I was without a camera for a while. The next camera I got was the first Nikon S rangefinder camera, but that's another story. The next picture. And this is a couple of years later, 3 years later, I guess, 4 years. I was in high school, and we had a local camera store, and because I had a paper route and I was really into photography, the camera store figured I was a fair game target to sell any camera that no one else would buy. So I ended up with a folding I forget what it was called. It was a Voigtlander tourist camera, which was like a 9x12 plate camera. I had that, and then I bought this Graflex. Just about anything that was out there that I didn't know about, I would somehow scrounge the money to buy and then resell it. So anyway, this was a self-portrait with a stray dog that had just become mine, and an old 2 1/4, 3 1/4 Graflex. Next. So early on, I started taking street pictures also. This seems to be out of sequence. Is there one before this? Maybe not. Okay, the next one. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, go back to the previous one. Yeah, this is street photography, and I had gone to Berkeley as trying to get into photography, but they didn't have anything in photography. They didn't teach photography at UC Berkeley. And so I had to take an art major. I was a painting major. And but there was one design class that was photography. And the design teacher was kind of a bohemian, San Francisco fan, City Lights bookstore, North Beach, hippie. And it wasn't hippie, it was beatniks in those days. So she took us to San Francisco as a field trip and just sent us loose. We had Tri-X or Super, I think it was Royal X Pan, which was like a huge speed of 800 ISO 800 to 1200, you could push it. So this was taken with Tri-X pushed, and it was just one of my earliest street photos at night, which was kind of exciting. Next. This was a takeoff of that, taken many years later, but I still did the same thing as I was doing back when I was in my college days, the same type of technique. Next. This was Children of the Night. They were prostitution, kids who were involved with prostitution, and that was for the previous one was for a pamphlet for Children of the Night nonprofit. This was part of that design class. She was trying to get us comfortable with going out on the street and photographing people. And it was really hard for me to go and aim a camera at people who didn't necessarily want their pictures taken. So this was my first attempts, some of my first attempts. And obviously he had a window between him and me, so I was fairly safe, but he wasn't very happy with having his photograph taken. After this, I developed a lot of different stealth techniques to try to capture people without them being aware of it. And I felt that my best work was done when people weren't aware of it. Next. This was, we went to Europe after graduation. This was 1968, after we graduated. In those days, we all looked like hippies. We weren't, my wife and I weren't hippies really, but we looked like it. But we went to Europe, and the thing to do in those days, it was expected of you. You sell everything and you buy a Volkswagen camper in Europe and you live in it for a year. So we attempted to do that. The only thing is, we had a 2-year-old daughter, but figured, well, what the heck, we can do it. She can do it too. I mean, she's really good and able to amuse herself. So, and we went, and it was great. It was great fun, and it worked well. Changing diapers when it was snowing outside and freezing, and just tossing them on the floor and having them frozen the next morning. That was kind of an interesting period of our lives. But anyway, this is in England, and I just really, I like the feeling that this gives me when and just seeing it. It just brings me back to those days. Next. And this was on the way to Switzerland. This was in the middle of the night. We stopped to I think it was Dijon, France. We stopped to get a few winks of sleep before we attempted to go to Switzerland. And then after about 3 hours or so, we woke up and we went up over the Alps at night, which was absolutely crazy in the middle of wintertime when it was snowing. So it was absolutely crazy. But the next image. So this is from there. We just traveled everywhere we could go. I think we went to over 30 countries. My wife finally got tired of it after 10 months, and she says, I want to have a roof over my head again. But this was in Dublin, Ireland, and I just enjoyed the atmosphere there, and I think we captured some of the feeling of the businessman at lunchtime. Next. And this was a hat shop in London. Next. This is my daughter, Colette. I see she's part of this group, I think, tonight. She was frequently subject of my photographs. And this went on for probably 12 years of her life until she became a young teenager. And this was in Brighton in England. Finally, she said, no more. She was not going to do that anymore. So I think I respected that. Next. This was a young artist in Tuileries Garden, I think it was, in France. Next. And also the same place, they had go-kart races there in the gardens in France. Next. And of course, Paris, there's always this type of look where people were walking their elegant dogs and having an elegant promenade in Paris, France. Next. And again, typically Parisian look. Next. Bistros are everywhere, and I like the dog, kind of totally bored, and they're being super cool and also very intent on each other. Next. This is in England, Banbury, England. We were just buzzing along on the highway and saw this, and there was actually a chain link fence surrounding the entire property. So I just stuck I had a Nikon F in those days. I just stuck the lens between the chain link fence and photographed the image that way. Next. And this is Luxembourg Gardens. Tai Chi he was practicing Tai Chi. Next. And now we're in Pisa, France. Pisa, Italy. And these nuns were watching procession. I think it was, I don't know, the kids were having their first communion, I think, but I'm not sure what the entire the procession had a lot of priests in it. So I'm not sure. It was a feast of something, some saint, I'm sure. Next. Oh, this is Portugal. These kids just came up to the car and started acting out in front of the car. So naturally, I grabbed my camera and made hay while I could. Next. And this was also part of that Pisa processional day. And these are some of the celebrants, children. Next. This was in Switzerland. Back early on, I like to do double printing. I think I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, but Jerry Uelsman was a big promoter of that, and so I was into that as well a bit. And this was the same man, but I took 2 slides and combined them in the darkroom years ago. And now I do it digitally. I had a texture screen on it in the beginning where we used to sandwich a texture with the sandwich of negatives, and then that's how we'd end up with texture on it. But I'm doing a little, printing it a little bit differently now, but I think it's just as effective. Next. This is my daughter again, as on that trip. This was later on in the trip. I think this was in Munich, Germany. This was about 7 months into the trip. Next. And this is also in Switzerland, in Geneva, Switzerland, right next to the, that's Lake Geneva, Lac Le Mans. It's pronounced in Switzerland, but it's Lake Geneva, we would call it. And they're just having a great chat, and I really like this picture. Next. And now we're in New York. We didn't have long, but I made the best use I could in the time spent there. So I did a lot of street photography in the short time we were there. Next. And I just like the contrast here. You can't read it, but he's reading the Sierra Club bulletin, and it seemed like a fun thing. Next. And this is also in New York. This is Gimbel's department store. This was in '72, I think, back then. We went back to Europe several times, and I just love Paris. Yeah, but we discovered Krakow, Poland is also my favorite. So I have to go back again. Next. And this is on the way back from. No, actually, I think this is in Ireland. That's one of the travel pictures. Next. And this was in near Washington, D.C. I did a lot of architectural photography in my freelance days, and they'd send me to different states. Every time they paint buildings or paint signs even, they would send me back for new pictures of buildings. So I did a lot of travel all over the United States. And this was near, I think it was in Pennsylvania, but I hadn't seen anybody playing with a hoop before. And I really enjoyed this little kid. Next. And this is my daughter's cat. Whenever there's an animal, I always follow it around until it does something, and they always do something. Next. And this is a That's All Folks picture. These are my grandsons. We took them on a Disney trip, a Disney cruise to Alaska, and they don't get along very well. But when they saw their first snow capped mountains in Alaska, they just did this. They were in the window and they just put their arms around each other, and we were looking out and saying, it's just beautiful. And they were saying that. So I'm just glad I was able to get this on film. And then that's all, folks. Any questions? I'll be glad to take them. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Hey, Robert, thank you so much for this story, this narrative that you provided to us. Wow, such fantastic images throughout the years. Like one of the person said, Charles, it's like a time capsule. So it's really interesting work. Bob or Robert, you can look at the chat. There's a lot of kudos. A lot of folks love these images that you shared with us today. And you know what? I'm just thinking out loud, really. You know, the image that you did with the two men, like a double exposure.
Yes.
No, you did Photoshop back then in the dark room, right? You knew that, right?
Well, yeah, before. Okay. What I didn't say is that back in the mid 80s, I had a job to photograph, a bathtub catalog. And they wanted, for the cover, they wanted a white bathtub with a rainbow coming down across the bathtub and slicing through it. And they wanted it done, retouched it. They wanted it retouched somehow. And So we decided, the art director and I decided, and he found out about it, I didn't, that we would try a Cytex machine. Well, I never heard of a Cytex machine in those days. Now we talk about Creo Cytex, and everybody knows the name now. I guess a lot of people do. But Cytex, in those days, it was like Photoshop. Only thing is, the Cytex machine costs $500 an hour to hire somebody to work on it. And you can get that rainbow like we do in Photoshop now. You can do just like in Photoshop. The only thing is, the Cytex machine filled an entire room, and it was a big room. The machine filled the entire room, and it cost $500,000. So times have changed. And so, yeah, I used to do, I did a lot of double printing in the early 70s. And for me, I was just waiting for Photoshop to come out. It didn't exist. We used to use what was called Mac Paint. And Mac Paint was, talk about pixelated. It was bitmap images, and they looked like, it was all golf ball sized dots making the image. And but slowly but surely things changed. And I was going to throw the gauntlet down and say that, look, I think digital not only is as good as black and white, but it's better in many cases. I'm fine for people using black and white film. I wish I could do it. I spent days and all nights in darkrooms, color, black and white, every size, every format. And I really don't like the smell of fixer anymore. It stinks. I don't like the smell of chemicals. I don't like that. It makes my nose, makes my nose run. So anyway,
that's right. You will never get into a dark room again. That's right.
If I don't have to, I'm not going to do it. But I will throw the gauntlet down. I think it's possible to make an image, in black and white image, that everywhere is as rich as the black's blacker or as black, the whites, the detail in white, in fantastic detail in white. Range, dynamic range, impeccable. Okay, I was doing Marcel Ballamé, is the photographer that I worked on for 20 years to get it placed in a museum finally. But I had to make the portfolio up first, make prints. So it finally worked out. The pictures behind me, supposedly, they're all his. But but I'm going somewhere with that. But when I was trying to get a show for him back in 2003. So I knew G. Ray Hawkins. I had known from years before. He used to represent Max Jabna, who was a friend of mine. So I knew him from that old days. So I went, he said, well, bring me some pictures and I'll tell you if I like them or not. So I brought him, I made 100 different images, 13 by 19 roughly, and brought them to G. Ray. And he just went through them one after another, boom, 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 boom. And I'm waiting. I just spent months working on these things. And I said, well, tell me, say something. And he didn't say anything. He just got to the end and he didn't say anything. I said, well, what do you think? Tell me something anyway. And he said, Bob, he said, these are some of the finest prints I've ever seen in my 20 years of being a gallery. And I've been doing this for a long, long time. And he says, then when do you want to show? I said, wow. And I was surprised because I really didn't know. I was so close to it that I didn't know, but this was digital. And he was showing that he had a show to show the Advertising Photographers Association what you could do with digital. So it's possible to do this. Now, maybe that's just in those days. Maybe things have changed, but for me, I'm fine with digital. And I think that even though I'm 80 years old and most of my work has been done in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, I'm still fine with producing it on digital rather than film or rather than silver, because it has everything I need and everything I want to express it has available in digital. So
Yeah, that's a great concept. I think a lot of people would agree with you on that one.
I use
Although-
carbon pigment prints though, printing.
Yeah, right. And there are so many schools of thoughts around that, but yeah, we can debate that for a while. But you're right. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in digital that is happening, just as good. So let me look at the chat, Bob, to see if there's any other comments. Everybody, Jonas put Bob's Instagram account there, so you can check out some of his other
It's
work.
hardly anything on Instagram. I most of my stuff has been on LinkedIn. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's odd, but that's where I've focused everything.
Right.
LinkedIn.
Right. Good. Okay. Well, thank you, Bob. Really appreciate it. This is a lot of good work that you have shown here. I think it might have taken you a while to edit, down to this list. And I must say that all of them have great composition. Of course, light, I'm not even going to mention light, but the composition is like, right on. So good job. Now, let me see. Are there any questions though? There are really a lot of good comments, Bob, on your work. And so, all right. Thank you, all three presenters today. I really appreciate the backstories and all the insight that you have provided with us today. So let me open up. Are there any other questions for anyone or anything? Now, I do see that we have a few alumni who joined us today, who have presented before. So thank you so much for coming back and supporting us and seeing new work. So this is amazing. So if you like, you can mute yourself if you like. If you want to say hi to other people, feel free to do that. Jonas, can they unmute themselves, or do we have to do that?
They have to do it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you'd like to speak to anyone, say hi to anyone else, you go ahead and unmute yourself or ask any question that you like to anything. And thank you for joining us today. We have about over 35 people at some point. Some people had to leave something. All right. Now the just a little bit of advertising. So next open show is going to be, believe it or not, 2023. That's amazing, right? It's coming right up. So it's probably going to be in February. We haven't really decided on the date, but the next open call will come out sometime in January, I hope. And some of you photographers out there are look out for our open call. Feel free to submit, and then we can plan on the next show. Originally, we were going to have a live in-person show in the Photo LA fair in Santa Monica, but that live event has been postponed. So we're going to still do that, but whenever they decided to bring Photo LA back, then we'll be doing an open show there. So that was supposed to be in March, but I guess we'll do some other event.
May I share with you that I am from San Diego, so the Zoom is a great opportunity for me to see what work people are submitting, because driving to LA is out of the question for me just for an hour there. So yeah. I'm grateful that I can be in a Zoom meeting and still see the work of other people. So for me, the Zoom meetings are really precious. So thank you for still going with that. And another thing that surprises me is I thought, this is my first time, and I thought I was going to see a lot of sort of avant-garde, edgy work. And I was really surprised to see very traditional work. because I'm 80 years old myself, and my work ranges a great gamut. And so like, oh, traditional street photography isn't dead. And that's good news for me. So thank you for sharing that, because I thought I was just gonna see things that were really, right on the edge of everything. And I was hesitant to submit to open show because I thought, I am not cutting edge in some of my work. So now I am really encouraged to hopefully share with you my work. So thank you for showing this work today. I really, really appreciate the fact that it's on Zoom and that I was able to participate. Thank you so much.
Annie, thank you so much for the comment. That's one of the sort of fallout or benefit of the COVID, that we are able to show work from places other than Los Angeles, right? Before COVID, we usually have these events at a local gallery, right, where people can meet up and be face to face and talk and connect, with one another. So that's a benefit for sure. But the Zoom also have its own kind of benefit. So yeah, that's why we've been still doing Zoom. Now, in the future, we like to do some kind of a hybrid situation. If we were in a live show, we wanted to be able to do Zoom at the same time. So it's like a hybrid situation. So that's something that can be done. We just haven't done it yet, but that's the plan. But yeah, we were able to show photographers from Australia once, and New York, for example, or anywhere in the States, in a different time zone. So yeah, so I totally agree with you, Annie. And Annie, secondly, we Jonas and I try to curate the photographers based on the caliber of work, not by the technique. So depending on the open show, some photographers that come and share work with us can be cutting edge, right? Can be digital, can be different. But yeah, so join us, going forward, so that you can see many genre, many styles of work. But today, we have sort of classic, traditional, awesome composition work. So this is great. So feel free to submit, Annie. We would happy to look at your work.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And there's a open show San Diego also, Annie, FYI, just in case you don't know. Yeah, but they are not as active. I
am aware of that because one of the people is in my photo group and they haven't been active.
Yeah, they've been sort of, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, come, Zoom in LA. Okay, thank you, Annie. Other comments? Any anecdotes? Could be fun to know.
Hi, I just want to introduce myself. This is my first time joining the open show.
Hi, Emily.
I really enjoyed it. It was unexpected. I actually, I came across it on Instagram and I didn't realize that it was for photography exclusively. But I really enjoyed the narratives and the storytelling behind each of the artist's works, the photographer's works on here. So thank you for sharing your work with everyone. And I guess as another artist, I'm a painter and I usually paint landscapes, but I am very into storytelling behind things. And I do like kind of finding beauty in the unexpected. So, which I felt like all of your artworks kind of, or your photography did so. But I wonder, just out of curiosity for each of the artists, like, how often do you seek out inspiration? For me, sometimes I go I'm gonna go, take a day and get inspiration photos. And I feel like sometimes that's not as successful as just what I happen to come across in the moment and just take the photos of, and then I paint them later. So I just wonder from your experience, like percentage wise, and like how do you kind of navigate like just finding inspiration in the moment? And then I know McCall, or is that how you say her name? McCall? She took a trip to find inspiration, right? And then Robert was like, you know, and Larry, you guys both went to these locations to find inspiration, but were you ever just not seeking the inspiration and found it anyways?
Well, for myself, this is Larry speaking. For myself, I just try to make a regular trip out to whatever it is that I'm focused on. And I just hope and trust that I will find something. Sometimes I go out with the camera and I don't find anything. Sometimes it happens a few times in a row, and sometimes I'll get several great images all on the same day. But I just try to, you know, get out there regularly and trust in the process.
Well, for me, it's been most of my life has been as a professional photographer. So I was always looked at it as being a chef. You were preparing food for somebody else to their tastes. So, you know, by the end of the day, I was tired, and I have to say I didn't have a lot of extra energy to go out and do my own stuff. My best times of shooting has been when I've been on a trip, and usually takes me a couple of weeks to come down from the intensity of sometimes it's really intense trying to survive in photography as a freelancer, and when I was freelancing. And so, you know, it's I don't know where I was going with that, but it's really it's something that I usually have to take a trip to feel freedom enough to start really doing what I want to do. Otherwise, I'll take a camera around with me. Harry Callahan, I took a class from him one time, and what he used to do is he had a Leica, and he had a little belt clip, as I remember, and he it was a small Leica, and he put a Leica on his belt clip, and so he would go out, and every day he would just take a few shots, no matter if they were good or bad or indifferent. But doing that, he over a period of time, he would always be ready, and so that inspiration wouldn't be coming all the time, but he just keeps shooting film, and sooner or later, you know, it happens. You click and things gel and everything works. For me, I just even with the iPhones now, you always have a camera with you, so you have no excuse not to get an image. So I buy an iPhone that has the highest resolution I can get, and I think I got that information from Richard. Actually, I think he's the one who got me to do that. Richard here in this format. But
to get an iPhone, or do they have different ones with different resolutions?
Well, they do, but you know, you can always upgrade every year. It'll be better, but just, you know, just so you have something, just so you don't have any excuse for not getting an image when you're there. Because an image is when you see it, you know, you'll know, you take it. So.
Yeah, I've noticed with the new iPhone, like I feel like the newer they get, I struggle. I know the night photos are supposed to be better, but then they're like kind of not what they used to be, where it's like, I don't know. I'm struggling with the too much like artificialness that the camera is trying to compensate for. And then you get this like weird blown out picture, like from, you know, just in comparison to what it was before.
Well, I don't know if you can dial it down, but a lot of things you can turn off if, you know, if there's automatic corrections. If you're talking about automatic sharpening, automatic this and automatic color balance and all of this stuff. I think some things you can control, but yeah, I understand you don't want it to look over processed, and that's one of the biggest problems I have with things I see online is that people fall in love with all of these processing gimmicks, and it's really hard to dial back when you have everything at your control, but the colors just look garish and they pop out at you and they look artificial. But if you can use that, if you can develop that into your own technique and pull back on it until nobody notices it, but you still have control over the subtleties. If you make it subtle enough, I mean, those are powerful tools that you can't do otherwise. But as long as you know what it should look like,
Yeah.
from traditional photography, I think you can come up with something that looks even better with digital.
Emily, I want to quote from Stravinsky, the famous composer. He said, "Never wait for inspiration, but compose regularly every morning, whether you want to or not. If you can achieve nothing one day, never be discouraged. You may rest assured that another day ideas will flow."
Oh,
Good
thank
advice.
you so much. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So you just show up and you work, and
Yeah.
that's the key.
The juices will start flowing sooner or later.
Yeah.
It might take 5 days before that happens, but trust it. Trust it inside. You let it come out.
Thank
But,
you.
but
And
when
you'll
it
have a lot of
does,
garbage also. Don't worry about it. We all have it. Nobody shows it though.
Dorothy Parker has a famous quote. She's a writer from back in the day. She says, "I don't like writing, I like having written." So sometimes you don't want to go out with the camera, but it's always good when you do.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you.
Suffer.
that is great. Yeah, that is totally true. But then, y- y- after 5 days, you might get a really, really, really awesome one. See, that's why, like what Bob was saying. Yeah, this is great. This is the kind of community that we wanted to create and give us sort of inspiration and also, feedback. So this is great. Other comments? I think a few people have, again, I want to thank the presenters again, Robert, Larry, and Michal.
Sure.
Thank
Amazing stuff.
you.
And there's a theme. We didn't plan it, but there seems to be a theme in this particular show today. Something about documenting, culture and life, stuff like that.
I wanted to ask Michal too. Do you often, I'm not as familiar with your work, and after this I will become more familiar, but have you planned other trips and like done these like photo documentaries with them?
I really wanted to go in 2020, but COVID stopped everything. And I lost the contact with them. And this is on my list. I just finished my MFA, so I was very busy with it, but I'm going to go back to this project because I feel it's not finished yet. I need to explore more about the Jewish community in Cuba. It's fascinating. Literally, I was there only for 1 week and 10 days, and the whole days I was in one place. I didn't see anything of Havana. I was so connected to this community. So, and they are not answering my emails. I'm a little bit worried, but I will go there soon.
Are there other Jewish communities that you know of that are, global, that are, it seems underrepresented?
I don't understand.
You might want to visit, like another place like Havana, Cuba, where there is a Jewish community that's not really prominent, that you might want to visit. I'm not sure if there are something on your radar.
Yeah, there are. I'm looking for a small community all over the world. I really want to go to Morocco, and I heard in Finland. So yeah, we'll see where it takes me. Nice to meet you, Emily.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you guys all. It's really nice.
Okay. Yep. Just I put our website on the chat here, openshowla.com. You can go there and sign up on our mailing list so that you know what's going on with us and the next show and all that good stuff. And then for those of you who are inspired photographers, if you want to submit to the next open call, please sort of set yourself a reminder to check it. Oh, we're also on Facebook and Instagram. So we try to post, but we try not to spam too many people, but we post from time to time. So you can also find out what's going on there as well. Let's see, I'm doing a time check to see where we are here. Oh, it's right at 7:30. All right. I would encourage everyone to check their websites, and Bob, check his Instagram. I'm pretty sure Bob's gonna go ahead and populate more images is there. Based on the feedback you got today, Bob, you can put all that stuff on.
Okay, yeah, I was using LinkedIn. One after, yeah, and Richard is always telling me, nobody uses LinkedIn. No, everybody uses. But
Well,
for me,
the
I wanted
creative.
to talk. I'm a museum person, so I wanted to reach the museum people,
That's right.
and which I did, and it's been different feedback. Not too many photographers, but a lot of people in museums and galleries. So
That's right.
it's a different feedback, but it's been interesting. It's been
Yeah,
a
it's a
good
different channel. Yeah, it's a different channel. And
Yeah.
a lot of folks, a lot of photographers, the creative people, they use Instagram. I mean, until something else, come up and replaces it. But so far, anyway, yeah, thank you guys for doing that. All right, if there's nothing else, we can break. And thank you again, everyone, for joining. And I look forward to seeing you in the next show. And the presenters, if you can stick around for another 2 minutes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all for coming. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.